Greetings, travellers. There's something I said in my previous video, and I quote, "So all you free-thinking intellectuals out there, you're mentally ill." This was meant as hyperbole, but after doing more research for this video, I learned it is actually an accurate description and not hyperbole at all. Throughout history, psychiatry has been used as a tool of oppression and discrimination to single out dissenters and apply labels to them to justify drugging them into obedience. Already this sounds like something out of a dystopian novel. A world of mindless obedient zombies wandering from place to place, doing mindless work for short-term gain without asking questions. It sounds pretty haunting, doesn't it? Almost like mind control. A ploy to crush creativity as creativity breeds dissent from the tyrants, and if you think that, you're very much correct. The position of psychiatry within the elaborate propaganda structure of oppression and subjugation is similar to the place of the school system and the mainstream media, both of which I've covered already on this channel. These three structures are used for behavioural control throughout the human lifespan. Schooling and the media take up childhood and adulthood respectively, meanwhile psychiatry is the glue which holds all this together. If Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Nietzsche, Locke, Rousseau, or any other well-known philosopher was in school today, they would be considered mentally ill, even though today we look back at these famous philosophers with the utmost of praise. These are the people who developed the frameworks we see society through. These are the people we see humanity and culture through. People, if this world was without, would result in a completely different modern day due to the influence these people held. But if there was too many people thinking like Socrates, like Plato, like Aristotle, then society would collapse, because society today is built upon a lie. It is built up on top of coercion and violence and propaganda, which seeks to prevent people from becoming like the greats we admire. Society, government, and the profit-making machine seek to keep people ignorant of their own freedoms as they benefit themselves from a herd of stupid people who are easy to control and brainwash through advertisements and propaganda. It is in the self-interest of the government and the market to maximize the amount of oblivious followers who know how to do only two things: buy things and follow orders. And to ensure this, altering the mind of the dissenting individuals is prudent. We can call these people the consumer class. The job of the consumer class is not to progress in society. They work for a wage, and then they spend the money they earned on things they are manipulated into wanting. This cycle continues and continues, week after week, month after month, trying to buy happiness from a supermarket shelf, as that is what they've been taught happiness is. And whilst they are doing this, they know no alternative. The plight they have suffered from brainwashing in school, and brainwashing from the news media they watch every evening, has took its toll on the man's ability to think freely. He is a man lost to society. He's fully transformed from a creative, aspiring child wanting to go into space, into a broken down, depressed man in his late 40s, in a monotonous job, waiting for his next paycheck, seeking the easiest source of happiness he can find. He's an alcoholic. He's addicted to heroin. He's seeking the quickest escape in his mind from his dismal life. And this is what the state wants you to become. But how does the aspiring young astronaut or artist get transformed into the miserable wreck in his late 40s? Through behavioural control. These people early on had a strong sense of divergent thinking. They could see many answers to a question. And most 5-year-olds have this ability, and there is a strong correlation with age and the loss of this ability. Over time through school, our minds become more simplified. We are repeatedly taught there is only one answer. What's a paperclip for? It's for clipping paper. That's it. But if you ask the 5-year-old, they might tell you it's for making a necklace or a bracelet out of. They might tell you it's for making the arms to the little man they made out of Play-Doh. But to the school system, this is unacceptable. Divergent thinking leads to creativity, and creativity leads to rebellion. Those who are too creative have to have their minds altered, and that's what parents are trained to do to their children. Read up on this mental disorder and read up on that mental disorder, and then go to the doctor and get the diagnosis, and then their lives will be perfect. But this, like with what most of society teaches you, is just propaganda. The purpose behind getting your child diagnosed with these mental disorders is to help them in school. Helping them by molding them into something they are not. Helping them by destroying them and rebuilding them into the way they want him to be. By literally labeling opposition to authority as a mental disorder. These mental disorders are simply fabrications used to control and dehumanize intellectuals. We can tell this because of the incredibly vague diagnostic criteria for many of these disorders. Let's take autism. For the record, I was professionally diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome at the age of 3, before I barely even developed into what I am now, so take this from someone who the psychiatrists say is mentally ill. The diagnostic criteria for autism is not consistent at all. It is diagnosed based off a point system, so if you get enough points, you get the diagnosis. The problem is there isn't one consistency between every case of autism. When it comes to diagnosing lung cancer, for example, we can identify the commonality which unites every case of lung cancer, as in mutated cells reproducing within the lungs which the body is unable to kill off. With autism, however, you cannot do this. You can say that they're all obsessed with routine, or that they're all socially awkward, but they aren't. There are plenty of spontaneous and socially able people who have been diagnosed with this condition. Whichever criteria you take for autism, you won't be able to unite every single case of autism under it, and therefore, autism is either one of two things. Either one, it's a series of many differences which are all different from each other, which leads to all these different personalities, or two, it is a fabrication for the purposes of control and the drugging of intellectuals into obedient, mindless slaves. Let's explore this further. What does Einstein and this person have in common? Nothing. One is an intellectual, the other is intellectually challenged. Either way you put it, autism should not exist as a diagnosis because its criteria are not consistent through all cases, and we don't even know what causes it. What if autism is simply a label attached to the intellectual introvert who's always thinking inside his head on how to change the world? Maybe that's why they did it. These people are a threat to the status quo, and therefore we need to dehumanize them and humiliate them by comparing them to mentally challenged people who can do nothing for themselves. The ones who control the diagnostic criteria are international organizations such as the United Nations. The people who write in the Bible of Psychiatry, the Diagnostics and Statistics Manual, are working for a global organization seeking to maintain all of its member states. In other words, all the governments of the world are the people who control the pen to write these mental disorders. They are the people who wrote that opposition to authority and coercion is a mental disorder. They're the ones offering the justification to intern you in a mental hospital indefinitely for your political beliefs. Psychiatry is a tool of tyranny for the purpose of identifying those who think differently. Those who think differently are mentally ill. They have autism, or oppositional defiant disorder, or ADHD, or one of the many fabrications by the international tyrants. Everything in your life is medicalized. Every mood change, every decision you make, everything. You can't concentrate when you've been put in an unstimulating and boring environment? You must have ADHD. Your mood changed? That's bipolar disorder. You've got an unpopular political view? That's psychosis. And even worse, if you disagree to their diagnosis, they can call you mentally ill based on only the disagreement as your opposing authority, which is also a mental disorder. Psychiatry is the epitome of a pseudoscience. It bases all its views on the illusion of science and rationality when it claims the chemical imbalance theory has not been proven correct. What psychiatry really is a fraud, a ruse, a racket. Mental disorders are invented, not discovered. Every aspect of your life can be considered a mental disorder to give the incentive to you to buy medication from Big Pharma to control your mind and make you into what the international bankers and the governments they prop up want you to be. They want you to be a member of the consumer class, believing you can buy happiness from a supermarket shelf, so then you are not questioning authority. They want you to waste your life in a dead-end job, being unable to think outside the short-term gains of a wage and consumer goods. In Western society, intellectualism is a mental disorder. Independent thought is a mental disorder, and at any moment, if you are diagnosed, they can take you to a mental hospital indefinitely against your will. They can then force you to take medication, and they can essentially control your mind. You don't decide you're mentally ill. The profiteering fraudsters behind the DSM get to decide, and they've got an incentive to create as many mental illnesses as possible in order to sell more drugs to more oblivious consumers, creating a new consumer class. Not in consumer goods, but in medicine. They lie to you that you need this drug and that drug, when really it isn't you that needs to change. You're perfectly normal. You are an intellectual. And it's natural for you to withdraw away from the masses of stupid people who continue to fall for this massive scam. Don't let them get to you. You are okay just the way you are. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, feel free to like it and share it with your friends. Join me on Discord, and if you loved the video, then spare $1 on Patreon, linked in the description. I've got rewards now, including the creation of my own artwork for you for the highest donation. This is the start of something much bigger, and I hope to see you follow me along this journey. It's the journey less travelled.